Hi there, it's really good to see you again. I hope you're keeping well and enjoying some of this festive spirit that we've got going on. But without further ado, I want to take a look at some of the goodies that I've had in my to review pile. So let's take a closer look. Well, this here we've got is coach, one of the Hornby Hawksworth coaches. And this is when they really upped their game, bringing out a much higher level of detail in their coaches. And whereas Bachmann have become the kings of freight rolling stock, Hornby, very much in my opinion, have kind of cemented themselves up there as being the kings of coaching rolling stock. Now, that might change. There's some really nice new models that are slated for coming out. But in the meantime, I'm more than happy with the standard of the coaches that they've put out. So what we've got here is R4404A, and this is a Hawksworth full brake. Now, I spotted this. I went and helped a friend at a model railway exhibition in Burton-on-Trent, actually at the Brewery Museum, and in the stall in the same room where he was exhibiting his layout, and had this at a really good price. Now, I already have two Hawksworth coaches, and they really have a nice presence, and I really wanted to build up a rake in this particularly eye-catching blood and custard livery, and it's taken a while for me to find them at a good price, because Hornby do seem to be learning a little bit in terms of not rushing out huge numbers of certain items, especially when it comes to coaches. So we haven't been spoiled rotten by lots and lots of releases of these particular things, and so it was quite interesting to see that the stall had several of the exact same coach there, and they did have a brake third as well, and at the time I wasn't sure whether I already had the brake third, so I thought I'd play it safe. I didn't have any full brakes, so I grabbed this. Now, what's fallen out of the box here is it's quite interesting. We've got two plastic plug-in ends, and what these are for is they go into the gangway connectors. Being a full brake, there's every chance that this would end up on the end of a train, and they wouldn't prototypically be open like that. They'd actually have doors that would be shut. In fact, I think all the coaches had these, but because in model formation these are more likely to be seen with them shut, they've provided two here in a little sealed packet to be added if so desired. And actually I'll probably use these because certainly in the case of some of the other coaches I've got, using them on the brake ends is actually quite visually a good thing to do. We've also got a pair of close coupling couplings here, and these are actually quite good. They kind of look a little bit from at a glance like the actual drawbar assembly and vacuum brake pipes. They're sealed in there. I'm not going to open them up just yet, but you can kind of see the assembly there, and they give a much closer coupling together, and I actually find them more reliable in everyday running. The only problem is that if your coaches don't live in a permanently coupled rake, then these are actually quite difficult to get back apart. You have to kind of turn the coaches upside down, which is alright if there's just two of them coupled together, but if you've got an entire train, that can get quite tricky. And they plug into the standard NEM pocket, so we can see the fitting on the back there, and they are actually a really good close coupling mechanism. Now, let's take a look at the coach here. Let's see if we can work out. There we go. So we're going to pop that there and discard the packaging. And what we actually also see is that there's what appears to be really tightly in there. There's a couple of pieces of polystyrene, and I think they're just to stop the gangway ends from getting crushed in transit. But they are actually very well in there. So I'm going to have to be careful how to get this out without damaging the gangway connectors. It's coming. There we go. So we can see there they're actually quite open, and that's where these kind of gangway covers really come into their own, because they'll fit over the end and look a little bit better. And they are actually quite nice gangway connectors when you've got these all set up in a train. The Hornby ones do look particularly realistic, even though they are a single piece moulding. They've kind of got the detailing just right on there. We can see here that I've actually tried to fit in, successfully as it turns out, the end caps on the corridor connections. And what I can say is that they're very difficult to get in. At one point I was quite frightened that I was going to break the coach, because you have to kind of get the coach in a really good grip and force these in, and it strikes me that it's not necessarily the best method of doing it. Once they are in, they do seem fairly well in, so that they don't really need gluing, but I just felt that there must be a better way of doing those. And indeed, the Bachmann 50-foot Stanier brake, the ones that come supplied with that, are actually a doddle to put in and do stay put, so there are better methods of doing it. These first came out back when Hornby were really upping their game, and what we can see is we've got very, very nicely done flush glazing throughout, but also there's a wealth of separately applied details, to the point where certainly on later issued models they kind of worked out that separately applied handrails for everything were really just a bit on the expensive side. It was detail that didn't need to be there. Being moulded didn't detract, but here on this model we can see all these little handrails are actually separately applied, all these small ones. And I don't know whether the camera will pick it up, but if I hold it like that, it's perhaps possible to see through underneath that they are actually raised off the body side. We've also got a few bigger handrails on there, just by the guard's door, and on the end as well. Some of the detail for the gangway connectors is separately applied. We've got separate metal, I think they're footholds and handholds for getting access if you needed to climb up to the roof level for a member of staff. We've also got fully sprung buffers. We've got the couplings they've got a close coupling mechanism. This is rather like the Bachmann coaches do the same. And you can see that as the bogie moves, these push out, so you don't get buffer lock on tight corners. The bogies as well come in for particular credit. There's so much separately applied detail on there. You can tell that this is an early China era model, because back when labour was cheap, they really did pull out all the stops, and that is just an exquisite bogie there. The detail on it is really, really fine. And we've got these lovely heavy duty solid metal 3-disc metal wheels, and they really are absolutely lovely. When running, they run incredibly smoothly, and there's actually a reasonable weight to one of these, so it does hold the track pretty well. The underframe detail as well, we've got here all the trusses. They're all accurately modelled, even though for the most part you'd never see most of this. In fact, I'm just looking in there, I think the backs of the battery boxes as well are sort of vaguely modelled, and again that's something you'd never see. We've got the full brake detail in there, with it's all factory applied. They're really, apart from these gangway connecting end pieces, there's no user fitted detail required. It's all been fitted at the factory, and that is just really nice to see. The underframes as well, Hornby tooled them up to have different detail depending on which coach they went on. So you can actually see there's little blank holes where other detail pieces would slot in depending on which other types of coaches, be it all first, composite brakes, CKs, restaurant cars, things like that. It actually has the provision for completely accurate underframe detailing. We've also got some very, very fine footsteps that are separately applied. They're quite a rigid plastic, which means that in truth they're very prone to getting knocked off, but you can see there's some on the coach body and there's a whole load on the bogie as well, and these are really, really nice details. But all of this adds to cost, and it's probably why these Hawksworth coaches have been fairly spartan in the catalogue in recent years. They do come out from time to time, and certainly even at the higher prices that they're being sold at these days, they're really actually well worth the money. And I particularly like these. I prefer them to the Monsell Southern Railway coaches. They just have something about the shape and the style has a much greater presence for me. The roof detail, well, the original coaches had a metal roof, and we can see this exquisite rivet detail. It's very, very finely done, and unlike the ribbing on some of the Bachmann Mark I coach roofs, these have been done perfectly. All in all, to be honest, I'd give this coach a pretty good 9.8 out of 10 on my completely worthless and made up scale, because there's not very much that you can find wrong with it. I think some of the detail is detail for detail's sake, and consequently can be a bit fragile. Now, I'm quite lucky with this that it doesn't appear that anything has fallen off as yet, but I know from my experience with some of the other Hawksworth coaches that you have to be ever so careful with some of these footboards and stands, and some of these handrails can require re-gluing, and it's one of the perils of overly detailed rolling stock and locomotives coming in from China. The livery application, well, we've got the custard and the cream, or blood and custard, whatever you want to call it, crimson and cream. There's no bleed over. It is such a sharp edge. We've got a suggestion of the lining and sort of a kind of a yellowy colour, and the black band. It is so crisp and neat. Now, my kind of middle-aged eyes are struggling to see the demarcation, but it does look incredibly crisp. We've got a few other bits of detail on here. We've got, for example, we've got the guards compartment clearly marked. We've got the coach number W316W, and we've also got a little bit of detail there, which I'm actually struggling to read with my naked eye, but I'll be honest with you, I have every faith that that will be accurately reproduced. So all in all, this is a superb edition that I was quite pleased to get at a very good marked down price. It must be old stock. I think there's certain coaches which have a propensity to being a much slower seller than others. So the vendor had clearly been left with a number of full breaks, but no other coaches to go with, and they really just needed to clear the shelves ready for new stock. So a really superb model. Anyway, I hope that's been really informative to you. Don't forget to like this video, share it too, and also subscribe to the channel, and you will be able to see all the really good things that we've been up to over the past few years. We've got lots of box opening reviews, trains going by, Jennycam videos as well. We've got quite a few interesting bits and pieces and a few little sneak peeks of some of the things that are coming up in the new year. But until next time, you take very good care of yourself. And this is me, Jenny Kirk, saying bye for now. Today's video has been brought to you by my books, Bringing Home the Stars, Twinkle Little Star, and also you can get the complete comic collections of All Over the House, Books 1, Books 2, and also the wacky zany Life of Knob T Mouse. Thanks, and catch you later.